Hello and welcome to the backyard. Today we are at the Bombyx Center for the Arts here in Northampton. We are celebrating 35 years with the Community Foundation and Valley Creates, just supporting artists and community all that time. We had quite a few artists come through to celebrate this momentous occasion, and we talked to a few of them. So here are some of those artists, and here are their stories.
So my name is Kali Hernandez, but I also go by the world famous Artunus.
My name is Adrian Omquist.
Kim Chin Gibbons.
Hazel Basil.
Jules Jones.
Indy. I was born, raised, and I reside in Western Massachusetts. I am an interdisciplinary artist. I paint, I sing, I compose, I produce, I direct a choir, I write lots of stuff.
I do solo work with the baritone guitar and sing under the entity Kim Chin Gibbons. I'm a photographer, and I also do a lot of social media work and also advocacy for the arts.
So I'm an artist, primarily working in craft-based methods, ceramics, textiles, woodworking, some timber framing. And yeah, I like to make things.
I'm based in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I do visual art. And I do a couple other things too, because you got to be, multifaceted, multi-talented to survive in this, this day and age.
I'm a mixed media artist and painter that does a lot of collage. I take paintings that other people have discarded, old artwork, cut it up, collage it, and then put it on a canvas or a print that I've done or some other surface.
I am a musician. I'm a guitarist and a songwriter and a singer. And my work revolves around self-love and the way that you can find self-love in your community. And how you can find love and joy in times of grief.
How have you found that love in community for yourself and for others?
I think my biggest thing is finding it in the people that I love, finding and seeing how I have changed as a result of the people that I love, seeing the things that I love in other people reflected in myself. I have a dear friend who has a song in which they say, "To love something is to love yourself if all of everything is everything else." Really beautiful.
And why is it so important that we do advocate for the arts, that the arts are supported in our local communities and just overall?
They're not appreciated enough. They're not compensated well enough, and it's one of the most vibrant parts of the community, and it deserves to be strong and thriving. It's the heart and soul.
Because art is a human right. It's a human need. Everybody has artistic expression within themselves, and it's not always nourished. Especially kids can have an artistic impulse that they forget about as they get older and have to focus on careers and jobs, right, and practical stuff. But art making is such a human need, just like breathing in air, getting sleep.
Because otherwise we don't have communities. People will just leave if they don't feel supported by the environments that they're living in. Yeah, so we just can't exist as a culture or as a community without artists doing what they do.
So we'll go big scale. So big scale, I often say that artists and creators have the solutions to the problems that the world has. And the more we have, problem solvers, the more problems can get solved, and it can make everybody's life easier. And I really do believe that. And in a lot of the work that I do, I try to solve problems, whether it be, me teaching a class and there's a need that needs to be met for the students, and they need an outlet, whether it be emotional or just an artistic expression. And you have to allow that environment and space for that.
I think it's important because I think art is essential to the human experience. And I think that by supporting artists, we're recognizing that within us all is a spirit to create and to share that with other people, express ourselves, comment, reflect on what's going on within our society. And really kind of express what it means to be human.
I think the arts are empowering. I think they are, of course, an outlet for artists and a way to engage your community in critical thinking and political thinking. And I think it's really important around here to inspire political action because there's a lot of complacency.
I think the arts and culture sector of any society or civilization is not way more important, but it is a vital part because it does create the culture, it does create influence, it does create ideas and thoughts that people have. So when you feed that, you feed everybody, and it's not just one person being fed off of it.
So anybody that can help fund the arts and make more emphasis on equity, that art is not just for the privileged few, that anybody can make art and people should, be able to make money with their art, is so important. So grants, things like this grant program has been amazing.
Yeah, and I think that the arts have maybe more capacity than anything else to change people and change communities. And so we should be supporting that change.
Would you say that art is kind of like an anchor in any community that brings people together? And
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what's the last time you went out to an event without art? It doesn't happen.
and as an artist, when do you feel the most supported?
I think when I'm collaborating, yeah, I think it's been hard living in a small town to feel community support outside of the actual studio. Although events like today, where I get to walk around and see a lot of familiar faces who have been supporting me for years, it's definitely special. But the most frequent experience where I feel the most supported would be just when I'm working with artists who help me to make my work.
It's a good question. Being in community and sharing art, and for me, getting art finally like out of my basement into the world is wonderful. And yeah, just showing up at other people's openings, seeing other art in museums, that all makes me feel supported and makes me feel that what I'm doing is contributing, and hopefully someday these pieces will be seen by others and inspire them.
I feel the most supported when I have people who understand the work or the idea I was trying to get across in my work, and that's always fulfilling to have someone it's like when you tell a joke and the person gets it and they're laughing and they're in stitches because they understand the joke is so funny because of how you did your setup or your punchline or whatever. That's the equivalent I'll give you as far as like your art being understood. It's really satisfying.
I feel the most supported during deep conversations about work, whether it's like a critique or a work share, feedback, any kind of circumstance where you can interact with artwork.
I feel most supported when my community comes to see my work, when I have art shows. I feel most supported too when I'm supporting other artists. I love this back and forth way our community interacts with itself. It's a self-generating kind of project. I help you with some things, you help me with some things, or we collaborate, and it just kind of keeps going and going and going because you're getting more ideas from other people and they're getting ideas from you.
How has being in community helped you in understanding yourself and your work?
Another really good question.
The answer is yes. Being in the community has helped me understand my art. Having a well-rounded perspective is really important to me. Learning from others, learning about how my experience is through their experience, and just kind of ping-ponging back and forth, and that goes back to kind of having those deep conversations about things is really fulfilling.
Being in community has helped me understand myself and my work because I have to learn how to communicate it to everyone. I started off as a very isolated artist working on my iPad or with chalk pastels in my bedroom, and my work would go on the internet, but people in my town didn't know that I was making stuff. And so as I've opened up as a person to be more community oriented, especially in my music, doing a lot more crowd work and directing the choir, the Ojima Singers. Yeah, it's really showed me that I can have a presence artistically with the people around me, and it's trained me how to communicate my musical and creative ideas across language barriers or just between different brains.
I tend to make art kind of in solitude, so having something like a grant program has really propelled me to do more collaboration. One of my art friends, Charlotte, we're doing a joint group show, just the two of us, where we're collaborating on the paintings together, and the grant actually helped propel that idea. I might not have decided to do something like that unless I felt inspired by the coaches, by the different programming, to say, why not try something different?
Being in community I think is very important in anything, even like your work environment, especially in the arts. Like I said, with the influence that it does have on people, you need that. And when you don't have it, a lot of times you go to a dark place, and nobody should be in a dark place for too long. We do have our moments where we have, a wave of emotions that you normally wouldn't want to feel. and it could be negative. They could, and that's just life. And then when you don't have somebody to lean on, it's really tough to kind of bounce back from. But when you do have somebody there, in community that does care about you, it makes life a little bit easier. And that's all we should do for each other. Just make each other's life a little bit easier.
For a long time, I wrote songs and didn't share them because I didn't think that anyone would really want to hear about my woes. And since starting to share my music, I've seen the way that people connect with it and seen this really deep hunger for, it's like permission to rest and care for yourself. And I think seeing that need has empowered me to find that hunger in myself and share it with other people, share something that feeds that.
Well, through Valley Create, I had a wonderful cohort, and just being with them really helped me grow and gain confidence as an artist. I think when I started the program, I really had a hard time saying, yeah, I'm an artist, and identifying that way. I saw myself, more of someone who was creative, or that being an artist was something that maybe you had to go to art school for, or be doing for a really long time. Yeah, through the process of just being with other artists and reflecting on that and sharing, it's helped me to kind of gain confidence as an artist.
So back then you kind of had this idea that being an artist, it takes time. It takes, years of having already done the work to be an artist. What do you think being an artist is now that your mindset has changed?
I think now just being an artist is just simply allowing yourself to be creative. I think inherently we're all creative as humans. The more that we kind of exercise that muscle, easier it is to sort of connect with spirit and to allow that creative energy to flow through you. And yeah, sharing that with others, I think reinforces it. I think being an artist is just expressing yourself.
What about your community inspires hope inside of you, brings you hope?
We continue to exist. We all have the odds stacked against us, and so I find it very hopeful anytime that I get to hear my friends share their craft. Yeah, just giving each other spaces to speak and sing and be seen makes me feel hopeful.
The thing that I'm hopeful for, that I wasn't hopeful for, was the youth. And I was really worried about them, especially after COVID and all these things that happened. And I thought there was going to be a disconnect as far as, kids not understanding certain things, them not being social. And then I was completely wrong. And I'm they're just as artistic, they're just as talented, as creative, they're just as smart as, the generation before us, my generation. So it's I was oh my God, they'll be fine. I kind of alleviated a lot of weight that I had, just thinking about my kids. What are they gonna have to deal with? What world are they gonna have to deal with? And am I bringing them into? And I'm not worried about that anymore. So I do have hope, especially because art is alive and well, even though you don't see a lot of it.
I'm thinking about the recent news of the Title IX investigation into Smith College, which, horrifying stuff. It's an investigation on the basis of accepting biological men to a women's college. And the day that happened, I left my building, and all across campus there were chalk signs saying "Trans Smithies belong," trans flags everywhere. I had several friends reach out to me. I think what gives me hope about community is, it's the thing that everyone says about community. It's we lift each other up and we protect each other, and that gives me so much hope.
I love the community in Western Mass of artists. It is one of the most art saturated areas, I feel like, even in the United States, is the Western Mass Pioneer Valley of artists. What about it brings me hope? Hope that there's so much arts to go around, that there's so much collaboration, there's resources, there's inspiration from other artists, that there's so much art going on. Just get tapped into one of these communities and it's so enriching.
Everything. Every high on the street, I listen to your song. Oh, check it out, I just learned this thing because you taught me this thing. Oh, hey. Even my dad being hey, I just listened to Pain of Salvation, this Swedish rock band, and it was so heavy and I didn't like it at first, but then I listened again and I liked it better. That reciprocity, and also just contributing to an ecosystem.
What do you feel like you contribute to that ecosystem?
Well, I hope I contribute a lot of passion. I also hope that I contribute a lot of hope. Yeah. I just hope that I can keep what I'm doing alive.
Describe your artwork as a scene, a landscape, or a place. Where would it be? What does that look like?
Good question. I think it would be in like a forest with some stones, and maybe there's a fire going, and maybe a rainstorm with some lightning. I think a lot of my work, I try to embrace natural materials, and I'm using, wood, stone. I do ceramics that are wood fired. Yeah, I think water, lightning kind of just represent, the essence of life and the energy of creative spark, I guess.
So I'm currently working on the album cover for the June edition of my album Role Model. I was really inspired by the scale of the villainess in the animated movie Sinbad. She's just got this galactic scale to her, and I wanted to play with that. So the image that I've been thinking about with my artwork recently has been one of a mirror dimension, where I sort of have my own planet, and I'm either using mirrors to teleport through the mirrors or to summon things from the mirrors. Yeah, it's just my own personal world, and then I'm looking through these mirrors. Sometimes they become windows into other environments, and yeah, so it's pretty kaleidoscopic and earthly.
Have you ever seen, oh gosh, what's that movie with Brendan Fraser and the monkey? He was a cartoonist. I don't know the name of it. It's called Monkey Bone. That's the name of the movie. And he was a cartoonist, and then I think they went inside his head because he went into a coma. And it was this whole, so you would be traveling into my mind, and you would be seeing all this crazy stuff that you wouldn't, think about. And it would be maybe a New York cityscape, with some anime inspiration, and then you got 90s graffiti, you got the Power Rangers, stuff blowing up, you got Megazords fighting, then you have a serene area, it'll be sectioned off in these different cool areas.
I think my music is a clearing in a forest by by a babbling brook, and there's sun dappled through the trees and bird songs.
That is so descriptive and lovely. I'm transported to that image. Thank you for that. That's amazing.
Of course.
I think that it's a place that could be an internal place. It could be an emotional state. Some of my work deals with themes of mental health, depression, imagination, exploration. There's so much that's up to also interpretation for the viewer as well. You can look at my art. One person could look at it and have a totally different interpretation than another person who's looking at the work. But I do think it has an interior kind of psychological perspective, my work does.
If you had to make one up, what would your catchphrase be?
Ooh. That's a stumper. That's not my catchphrase.
Hold on, I got a tune.
I never thought about this. It would be rob your grave. I'll elaborate. So when I say rob your grave, I like to think about all the people who didn't create, who didn't write that book, who didn't paint that painting, and your grave becomes the richest place ever if you never do those things. So when you rob your grave, you're taking all that stuff that you would ever put out, and you're bringing it so that we can all see it. And then when your grave is empty, then you can go make space, or you can lay in it. Because we all, we're not going to be here forever. But the impact you can make can last forever.
Art is for everyone. Art is for everyone. Let's share the wealth. Let's just keep making art together and showcasing what we would love to do.
Be your own role model. Yeah, it's just that thing that sums up my project in all of its essence.
That comes from an old Shaker saying that's hands to work, hearts to God. But I like to think of it, God as creation, and also creation not just as a noun but as a verb. So it's a little bit of double entendre there.
If I loved this, what would I love about it? I think it's just a reminder to find what you love in everything, in anything.
Is there any last words you'd like to share?
You deserve the kindness that you give to others.
No words of wisdom, but deep appreciation for you, James, for being the reporter here and getting the message out. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. This grant has been incredible. I have blossomed so much more as an artist, even more than I thought I could. And I've been challenged as well. So, yeah, things are really looking up for me.
Amazing.
Yeah, work the system, get into the room, and let your opinions be heard. You have to.
Keep creating. In all phases of my life, I felt the most empty when I'm not creating anything.
Well, thank you, Kim. Appreciate you. This was the first take.
This was the first take. It was. We didn't plan this at all. I just stepped back here and we did it.